What up? Welcome back to the Triple Cross podcast. Excited to be here. We've got some good NFL action going on. Just me and you this week, though, Casey. A little bit sad.
Right.
I was out last week. You guys did it without me. It was pretty good. It's probably better. It was probably better. Let's be honest.
Hey, you don't say that about yourself, John. Come on. I missed you.
Anyway, yes. I mean, I'm sure you missed me, but you missed my horrible NFL takes. But here I am back to make more horrible NFL takes, and there's no cue here to disagree with you. So, basically, it's just whatever Casey says is truth on Triple Cross this week.
I get to be back on my side of the screen that I like to be on. I felt weird being on the other side.
You're right there on the right, my right. I don't know if it's right. It's right for you too, right? It's everybody's right.
Yeah, I can never remember if we hear it or not.
Casey's on the right because he's right. If you're seeing him on the right. Otherwise, I don't know what he is. But let's get into it. We're going to talk some week 3. We're going to talk week 3 action, or kind of the first 3 weeks. We're going to go over just some of the main things we're seeing in the NFL as these first 3 weeks have unfolded, as well as get into some week 4 predictions. And as of right now, while we're live, maybe we should make our Thursday prediction here at the top of the show. I don't know. I mean, I think we're both pretty aligned on the Thursday prediction. It's no secret. I think we both have the Dolphins. Yeah.
I do have the Dolphins. Yeah.
Yes.
So just in case we run long and they start the game while we're still live here. Yeah, we got
just
the Dolphins.
To get it on the record before the game starts, we both have the Dolphins over the Bengals in the Thursday night matchup, week 4. Speaking of the Dolphins, these guys beat the Bills. The Dolphins beat the Bills. How did this happen? How much of this did you watch? Did you just watch Red Zone, or did you watch like a lot of the game, or what?
Yeah, I'm a big Red Zone watcher, but it got a decent amount of airtime being the matchup and being how it went.
Was it an afternoon game too?
I think this one was in the early block. It might have been afternoon. I don't remember. They kind of blur together. That's the one downside of Red Zone is they do kind of blur together a little.
Well, you get a little bit more action on the afternoon games or in that later block, I think. But yeah, anyway. Go ahead. What do you think here? What did you see? What did you see in the Dolphins Bills matchup? How did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that was always a potential. I mean, even going back to like our playoff prediction show, I mean, I'll be the first to say there's plenty of hot takes I had that have already gone ice cold. But one of the things I said was look out for the Dolphins. They're a dark horse. None of us officially predicted they'd go to the playoffs, but I think it was actually the only one I called out as a dark horse throughout the whole episode. Like, hey, this Dolphins team is good. They have good leadership and Mike McDaniel. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are probably the best 1-2 punch at receiver in the NFL, and that was on full display. The defense is solid, and it all relies on Tua. Is Tua the real deal or not? And I think what we're seeing through the first 3 weeks is he's real enough,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, look, the Dolphins, the thing that I'm loving about the Dolphins right now is winning close games, right? Like that, I mean, and it's a little undervalued in terms of like, it doesn't get talked about, but there's something to be said for teams and players that pull games out that are close, right? So coming back against the Ravens, which, I mean, it was an incredible comeback. I don't know why they were honestly down so far. It seems like they're actually just like better than the Ravens. But it was an incredible comeback. And then went like coming back and winning, pulling out that close game. And then with the Bills, it wasn't a comeback. It was a battle and they win. To win a battle, I mean, to me, I think that it's not to be it's not to be overlooked. And if they stay healthy, I mean, to me, that makes them a real like deep run playoff contender. Because that's what you have to do to win playoff games, to win championships, is you got to be able to pull out close ones. Like there's nothing easy in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of built to survive and to thrive maybe in the playoffs, like you're saying, Ravens, Bills, I can't remember who else they played, but I mean, they're beating teams that most people predict will go to the playoffs. And just recently over the course of the last few years, it's changed a little. I mean, maybe over the last 20 years, but more so even in the last few. It's not the ground and pound teams with great defense that, they don't allow you to score and then they run the clock out and the game's over before you can. I mean, we see show stopping, like, 5-6 touchdowns in the final quarter, between both teams. Like thinking back to like the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
that was
the Chiefs and the Niners in the Super Bowl. I had to bring that one up. Let me bring
a
that
few
up
years
for you.
ago. Yeah, but even just last year, like I'm saying, like to win their
Right.
conference, which the Dolphins are in the AFC. I mean, it took a full blown like passing attack, and neither of those teams run a ton. And the Dolphins are following suit. They're the next team. They are shamelessly pass heavy. They have plenty of running backs, but they don't really use them like running backs that much. When you got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, why would you?
I mean, and the other thing is, here's a 3-0 team tonight, I believe, going to be 4-0. And strength of schedules, I mean, over the first 4 games, I mean, you got the Pats game week 1, but they beat them well, right? 20-7. Ravens, Bills, Bengals, right? Like those are all teams. Bengals are a little bit underwhelming, considering that they were a Super Bowl team last year. But Bengals, I mean, that's not a soft schedule. You get a break with the Jets in week 5, and then you're back into it with the Vikings. And if this team keeps winning, they're not winning a soft schedule. Like they are winning a tough schedule. And I like Tua. Who I really like is Tyreek. I actually feel like there's been some big receiver moves, some big receiver and big quarterback moves. So I'm thinking, Tyreek, Devontae, Juju. I don't know if I'm really going to count him as big, but Tyreek, Devontae, and then Russ, and that have disrupted some receiver quarterback sort of combinations or receiver quarterback connections. And it's the question marks, right? Like, will Pat be good without Tyreek? Will Tyreek be good without Pat? Will Devontae be good without Aaron Rodgers? Will Aaron Rodgers be good without Devontae? I think we all know Aaron Rodgers is good no matter who he's got. I would put Tyreek is showing me that like he's in that Randy Moss TO category where it's like you can go anywhere and you're very highly effective, across multiple teams. Devontae, I think Devontae does look like that. He looked great in week 1. Honestly, I think he's just not getting targeted. Like I think Derek Carr should just like roll the dice a little bit more, like put the ball up, let the man go get it,
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where, it's put up or shut up time, basically on a career level for a guy like Derek Carr. There are no excuses when you get an alpha like Devontae in the wide receiver room. I guess, one of our first hot takes was like Derek Carr could be one of the sneaky like passing yards leaders, like kind of contenders. And I don't even know that I'm totally out on that take, but I was the only one of us that didn't have them going to the playoffs. And I would say that's one of my takes.
Yeah, we're going to get into the Raiders a little bit later, but yeah, the other big storyline from the Dolphins game. So Tua has a back injury. I mean, essentially, I think the down low here is that a lot of people think that this is a head injury and that they more or less gamed the concussion protocols. Is this what you think?
So it's tough saying, right? Like you don't want to accuse anybody of anything, especially. Sure. I mean, I'm a fan of that.
Hey, let's stick with the it's triple cross. We're good with the hot takes here. If you think it was a head injury and that they gamed something or that they, that they did something here, so I'm going to move it forward a little bit so we can see the hit.
Yeah, here it goes.
I don't think it's on this one. Oh yeah, it is. Nope, it's not. So
okay, coming up.
Okay, here we go. So it's not really a big hit. It's just one of these. And
so it falls back and the snap back into the ground. That's like the earth hitting you. Like,
right. Yeah. That's
bumble, complete collapse.
Comes
get
down,
up and let's stumble a little again. He's looking woozy.
Yeah, now they're holding him up. He's shaking his head.
I don't know who that O lineman is off the top of my head, but I mean, just good looking out, right? Because if he collapses twice, I don't even think you can sell the narrative.
He's not coming back to the game. So he walked himself into the tunnel. But yeah, here he is getting up again, shaking his head. Yeah, you good? Yeah, I'm good. Oh, not good. Okay, I'm gonna hold you up because that's what we're gonna. We just we need to pretend that you're able to stay up on your own. Okay, so I think to the untrained eye, it certainly looks like a head injury.
For sure.
That said, I'm not a doctor. I think it's very possible that like some neck whiplash. They said back, it could be upper like vertebrae, maybe. It could be like neck back. I think there's a potential that kind of injury could make you a little stumbly. The body is weird, man. Like you take a shot to the chin, which isn't really your head. and you'll be that same way. You'll be like a little stumbling out of it.
Well, I think we should cover that happened right before halftime. So obviously huge break.
They had a long time
in halftime. And then we didn't finish the story. He comes back in to the game. He gets cleared from concussion protocol.
Yes.
Comes back into the surprise of literally everybody, and they win the game.
Everyone thought he was out.
I don't think anybody thinks they win that game if he doesn't come back in. So it mattered big time. That's a divisional opponent, divisional rival. They're probably the two best teams in that division. I don't think that's a hot take anymore. And I've seen some stuff in comments on videos and things that like a skateboarder mentioned, like, hey, as a skateboarder, like I've landed on my lower back, thought I was fine, stood up, and then my legs give out because there's some kind of weird disconnect almost.
There's a nerve. Yeah.
It doesn't he's walking, he's fine, he's down, he's up, he's stumbling. Like I think
the head shakes
is the word I would use. He seems so woozy, and that's so head injury-esque. Like
it does seem head injury-esque. I think I don't think he had a concussion. I think he legitimately passed the concussion protocols both last week to come back into the game and this week, mainly because of the risk, right? Like, yes, it is a key matchup, but it's week 3. I mean, this is who you're thinking is going to be your franchise quarterback. It's like, look, you knew a loss to the Bills was pretty like possible anyway. Their new head coach is in year 1. Like, is he going to push something like that in his first year as head coach? And he's not really that kind of guy, right? Like,
you can't afford a re-injury.
If you're a doctor, right? Like, this guy was just stumbling around out there. Like, we better be sure. I've had a concussion before, and given I wasn't in the NFL, but doctors are very, very cautious to put you back out there if they think that you're like, there's some kind of swelling in your brain, because it only takes one more shot at that point. You could die, right? And then they're liable. So I don't think I think he passed the concussion protocols. I think maybe it's I think it's, maybe a back injury, maybe a back or neck head thing. This is probably kind of this whole area. I bet this whole area is stiff and sore, right?
Well, what weakens that narrative is I think it's supposed to be either lower back or head. So it's not really like that's not really the narrative, is that it's a like upper back neck injury. It's like a lower back, like, oh, my legs went out because
did they say lower back?
I'm pretty sure that's the official narrative, but just to like put my 2 cents in on it, I leave a little bit more room for wiggling around the narrative. I think Mike McDaniel, I would never accuse of doing it. He's a player's guy. He's the first time head coach. Like you said, you can't afford to like get some like year-long suspension when you're off this hot start. You definitely can't afford a re-injury to Tua. That could be just catastrophic. Well beyond just football, even that could be horrible.
The fallout if something goes wrong after you pushed a concussed guy back onto the field is there's just too much downside.
What I think is unaccounted for a little bit in the discussion that I've seen is a guy like Tua, who's missed a significant amount of legitimate opportunity in his career from going to college to the pros. I mean, the injuries that he suffered, they held him back in draft stock and like where he went, like in starting opportunity, things like that. I wouldn't put it past a guy who's had that kind of feeling in the past to game the system himself. Maybe. I mean, listen, if you were a competitor and you had a concussion, and you thought you could get one over the doctor, it's an independent doctor. It's not just a team doctor. Third party.
I think the point is to try and answer correctly.
That's what I mean. So like, if
the point is to try and be correct in the concussion protocols. Look, if your eyes if your eyes can't follow a light, you can't make them follow a light. You know what I mean? Sure. If you don't know what day it is, you can't know what day it is. If
you got 1 out of 7
if you can game the concussion protocols, then that's the point, right? Like the point is that it did not catch the concussion.
That's it. And I do think there's some. I don't think there's any wrongdoing per se, but I think they built a separate narrative to try to confuse the issue a little bit. I think there's no way he doesn't have a head injury, whether or not it's concussion. Who's to say? I think
concussion is such a rattling of the brain from the brain moving back and forth, right? Like it's a very wishy-washy type of injury anyway. And the side effects people experience from it are kind of all over the place. So anyway, we got to move on. Let's go get into some other upsides.
Anyway, I'll just say Bills still the best team in football. I think they would win in a rematch. I'd love to see it, but good luck to Tua and Mike McDaniel and all those guys. I hope Tua is healthy. They're about to play the game coming up here tonight. And I just hope everything goes well for them, because it would be a nightmare to ruin their season. So
I do think that I tend to no. You know what? I'll go with the opposite take, and I'll call the Dolphins the best team in football. I'm not writing it in pen though. It's in pencil right now. Moving on to some other upsets. Jags, the Jacksonville Jags, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the football team.
Yeah.
They won a game, and it was a game against the Chargers. This is a pretty again. I saw very little of this one because it was mostly on game. It wasn't in my local market. But I mean, like the Jags, from what they seemed like they were scoring at will. Like it was just however they wanted. They scored on the ground, they scored in the air, and like the Chargers have so much talent, and they weren't banged up. There's no excuse. I don't understand what happened here either. Are the Jags good, or did the Chargers drop this?
I think there's maybe a little bit of both happening, but I think the main storyline that I would promote here is there's a lot of young quarterbacks. One of the sophomore quarterbacks in the league, Trevor Lawrence. I think he's shown us, even in the games they haven't won, even in drives that don't look great, I think he's really shown that he's taken a level up. I think change at head coach was a big thing. Last year was kind of a nightmare under Urban Meyer, a guy who never coached in the pros before. And you think like, oh yeah, college quarterback comes up with college coach. It'll work because they both have college in the name, right? No, but that doesn't actually work. I think almost if you have a rookie quarterback, you need somebody who's ultra experienced in the league. And you've got a real NFL quarterback, a former NFL quarterback, and a former head coach of a Super Bowl winning team now leading the charge there. That's way more of a recipe for success historically. And I think Trevor Lawrence has leveled up. I think he's not a bad quarterback. Obviously, he was, a generational talent was the wording everybody always used coming out of college. And it was just a matter of time before it clicked.
He's in that Trey Lance draft class. Yeah.
So Lawrence went 101. Then you got Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields is also in that one, and Mac Jones rounded out the first round. So those five were the sophomore, at least first round.
Three big quarterbacks there. Poor Zach Wilson had to go to the Jets, but
the Jaguars weren't a better destination either. He's just a better quarterback.
Probably culturally, maybe the Jaguars a little bit better destination.
Even now, though, looking at his receiving core, he's got nobody. Christian Kirk, they had to overpay through the nose to get that guy there, and he's not a real number one receiver, most people would say. But when Trevor Lawrence is dotting people up, you just got to be able to catch the ball.
Yeah, no, and he's moving it all over the place, right? It's almost like he doesn't have a WR1, and and honestly, it doesn't seem like he's doing anything that incredible. He's just like, it's good play calling, it's good, it's just good everything, right? Like it's not great anything. It's good route running. It's good play calling. It's good reading the defense. It's good throws, good catches. Nothing's great. Nothing's incredible. It's just all correct. And it's just well executed. And the Chargers, I don't know, under executed. There was some where it's like, it wasn't bad coverage. I saw a couple touchdown passes. It was like, or one of the touchdown passes I saw was like, it was good coverage. The ball was in the right spot. Defender couldn't really get there. They made a good catch, right? They called a good play, right? So they put a guy in zone into like a conflict. So he's defending two. And it's just everything kind of clicking. The Jags are cooking. They dropped in week one to the Commanders, who are such a wild card of a team. But other than that, they've got wins against who do we got? They got wins against the Chargers, and who'd they play in week two? The Colts, and they shut the Colts out 24-0.
Yeah, that was an embarrassment of a game for sure. And we'll get to them next.
And we now know the Colts aren't that bad, right?
Well, we'll see. I predicted them to go to the playoffs, but staying on the Chargers real quick, the other huge thing to note, they're a good team. Nobody would argue, I don't think. But Joey Bosa went down, kind of a world beater. Coming off the edge. That definitely makes it easier for a guy like Lawrence. I don't know exactly when he went down in that game, and I don't know his status for this week coming up or future weeks. Hopefully, I like the Bosa brothers. Hopefully, Joey's okay and he can play. But like I said, I'll have to look into that. But I think that this is maybe one of those quarterback matchups you'll love to see coming up. They're both young guys, Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence could really ascend and become one of those better guys in the NFL. And, if you can turn the Jaguars franchise around from the quarterback position, that is just remarkable. Nothing short of remarkable. So
I in my lifetime do not remember the Jaguars being good, or maybe they've never been good.
I think the very first year they came into existence, they were like a Super Bowl team, but then I don't think anything since. So
yeah. So speaking of the Colts, dropped 124-0 to the Jags in week 2. We're not looking good. It's like maybe Matt Ryan is washed up. They come back this week and beat the Chiefs, the man who I think is maybe the GOAT, might be the best quarterback of all time, just based on film. I don't know if I think he'll get in his own way when it comes to winning championships, but again, more upsets. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those takes that started to look pretty cold pretty early. The Colts going to the playoffs. That's who I had winning their division. But this is one of those things I would file a few teams. I'll bring this up when we get there, but a few teams I would file under. We got to wait and see. You can't just decide a team starts out slow out of the blocks the first couple games and they're no good, especially when they had a change at quarterback. When the rest of the roster is pretty talented, most people tend to agree. Matt Ryan, the week before, he was without his best receiver. I mean, you're going to look bad. Getting shut out is inexcusable. But Matt Ryan, like I said before on our playoff predictions episode, he's bringing a sense of leadership to that team that is needed. Replacing Carson Wentz, who is such a wild card. He'll win you some games on miraculous plays, but he'll lose you more games on boneheaded plays. So Matt Ryan will do neither of those things, most likely. He will not lose you games that your team deserves to win when they play well. So that's what I would file the Colts under right now. We got to wait and see, but I'm still betting that they figure it out, and I'll still say they're going to win that division. They're gonna improve over the rest of the season and maybe win a game in the playoffs even. We'll see, though. I wouldn't bet on that.
I couldn't bet on that right now for sure.
But I think they'll go.
Just the eye test here. I did see a little bit more Colts Jaguars action for some reason, Colts Chiefs action for some reason. I think the Chiefs get a lot of play. And maybe they were one of the like CBS games or something like that. But both last week against the Jaguars and this week against the Chiefs, regardless of missing his number one receiver. And I know that there's like a butterfly effect of that, right? Like there's a chain reaction where like everything gets harder, right? Regardless, I saw Matt Ryan make some just really bad throws. You know what I mean? Like just really bad decisions, really bad throws, or sit in there and get sacked like for too long, really. And then this week against the Chiefs, I saw him do that and also make some really incredible throws, right? Like put it in a tight window. And it's like, man, I know this guy can play, but like, what is going on here? I mean, maybe he's just getting the feel for his offense, getting the feel for his receivers. Typically, he's a much more consistent quarterback than that. And that's what is me a little bit kind of like scattered on Matt Ryan and the Colts and not really sure how I feel about him because I'm used to Matt Ryan being a very consistent type of presence. Right. And at least eye test so far, he seemed a little inconsistent just with his accuracy, with his decision-making, all of it.
Well, not to like skip ahead to anything else we might talk about, but there's another quarterback I would say falls right into that category of looks more inconsistent than I've ever seen him. And that'd be the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. So, I mean, if you're in that company, I'm going to say, let's hold the wait and see approach, see what happens. 3 games is not a sample size large enough. I know the season is relatively short as it is, but this is too early. We're not a quarter of the way in yet. We don't know what that team looks like come playoff time. And
to be fair, I suppose with Matt Ryan and Tom Brady, the story's a little bit the same. To be fair with Tom Brady, I think everybody's waiting for the age hammer to drop, right? Like when is this other foot going to drop? And he's going to start feeling like he's, 42 or something like that? 43, 107. I don't know. Like some of the best memes, about how old Tom Brady is, but everybody's kind of waiting for that. And I suppose that's the case with Matt Ryan as well, but usually it's not like decision-making and accuracy that goes, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's usually like they don't throw as far. They're a little bit slower, that kind of stuff. So
I think the one thing that people don't factor in, which could be as big a factor as any, is you don't think about how much defenses improve, and particularly the athleticism of something like edge rushers, because they get faster and better every year, and they improve their technique. The guys who are athletic freaks coming out of college, they get another year of technique under their belt with good coaching, and a defensive front a good defensive front can disrupt anybody. I don't care who you are. So, right. I mean, you take that with a grain of salt when you watch a good established quarterback struggle for a game. It might just be a game. It's a bad matchup sometimes.
Sure. Moving on to the division that is near and dear to your heart, the NFC West. Tough loss for your Niners this week. What do you, I mean, so basically, I mean, what I'm seeing here in the NFC West is like, we went from thinking there could be 2 wild cards out of this division potentially to thinking like there might not be any wild cards out of this. I think did I predict 3 wild? No, in the AFC West, I predicted 3 wild cards.
I think you just had the Rams and the Niners going, if I remember right. I think we actually all had the Rams and the Niners going.
Oh, we did not. None of us picked the Cardinals. Okay, so
I might have. I'd have to look back on it. But yeah.
I mean, look, across the board, Niners have a question mark in dropping their starting quarterback, repicking up Jimmy G. Look, I mean, I think that's not that big of a question. They've performed well with Jimmy G in the past, right? Like he can get the job done. But you know, they got to put up more than 10 points. Their defense is good. They might have the best defense in the league, right? Or at least one of the best defense in the NFC, or maybe for sure the best defense in the NFC West, right? Like they're very good on D, but they got to put up some points, right? Like, I mean, unless the defense is going to score points, you're going to have like a 2014 Denver Broncos situation where it's like they're not going to put up any points on offense. It's going to all be defense. Like 11 points isn't a lot. Like the Broncos only put up 11 points.
You'd like to think you win games with 11 points, and 2 of those points came on a safety. Jimmy G pulls Dan Orlovsky, steps out of the back of the end zone. That's 2 points for the safety, and that ended up being
the worst kind of safety. That's the worst kind of safety too. Like you didn't even get tackled. Yeah, you didn't get tackled back there. You stepped. You ran. Like you put your foot out of the back of the end zone. Like what? Like just throw the ball away. Like I don't know.
So, I mean, there's some homerdom going on whenever I talk about the Niners, but I'm glad I already mentioned it with the Colts because, again, it's just early in the season. They aren't winless, you know, same thing with the Colts. They've won a game. You know, we're not talking about a team that's winless. That's statistically a very different category to be in. We're talking about a team in the Niners that's 1 game out of first place in their division behind the Super Bowl winning Rams. So, and they got them this week. I'm not necessarily saying they're beating them, but if they do, well, then all of a sudden you're tied for the division lead and you have the tiebreaker because you beat that team. So, I mean, it's too early to write off the Niners for sure. Even if you don't believe in the offense, the defense is so good. I mean, hey, if they can figure out how to score 2 touchdowns a game, they're going to win a lot of games. So I really believe that, barring any like
or
other
just
injuries,
getting field goal range like 5 times. You know what I mean?
According to PFF, the Niners have the best safety duo in the NFL right now, and that's without one of our starting safeties, one of our veteran players, Jimmy Ward, defensive captain. The defense should get better in the next couple of weeks when he comes back. Will the offense get better? And I think it's reasonable to assume that in the first start back, after a whole offseason and preseason and week 1, full of preparing for the Trey Lance era and adapting the offense for him, Shanahan's come out and said he's not going back to the Jimmy offense. They're running the offense how they would have, and Jimmy's going to have to adapt. And just being, you know, the Niners are the only game.
Movement? Like, does it call for more rollouts and stuff like that?
So not exactly, because Trey Lance just as a player calls for, hey, if the play breaks down, just go. But what I've seen big in a different way out of Jimmy and out of these play schemes is that he's doing some different dropbacks, some I wouldn't even call them total rollouts, but this whole like roll out and throw across the field kind of idea, which you typically have like more of a big armed quarterback for, which Trey Lance is supposed to be. Jimmy Garoppolo, not so much. So I saw a few of those, and I also do think that give Jimmy a chance, give him longer to try this offense out, because whether it's for the Niners, probably not, or somebody else, this dude's auditioning for a job next year right now. This was the best opportunity he could have asked for, going back to a team he's used to, with a coach he's used to who knows him, and he basically gets to start the whole year. Who could have predicted Lance went down so early? Jimmy needs to put up numbers. So Jimmy's way more incentivized to take those shots down the field this year than ever before, because they don't need to be great as a team necessarily. People didn't respect him when they were good as a team. Jimmy's got to put up Jimmy numbers.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, really, yes, it is an audition. That said, had this not happened, I don't know that Jimmy stands much to gain. Had this not happened, I think there's plenty of play. Like, he would have been one of those quarterbacks who's a little transient and always ends up on kind of bad teams. But like, kind of one of those game manager quarterbacks. This is probably his last chance to like get a job somewhere where he's got weapons and they're actually a good team. So that's probably what he has to gain. But he's still better, even on his past, based on his past, than a lot of quarterbacks with starting jobs. And so I think he would have got a starting job had this not happened. And if he plays terrible, then he might actually like not get a starting job. But I don't know. There's an upside too, right? He might actually go get Derek Carr's job, right? Like
there's a lot of spots he could fit. I don't know Matt Ryan's contract situation or Ryan Tannehill's, but those aren't guys that are probably going to remain on those teams for very long. Right. And I'm not saying Jimmy's the answer, but they both have that identity of like they tend to be more defensive minded teams. And you don't need to be paying a quarterback through the nose. And Jimmy's next contract probably isn't going to be incredible. Well, I tend to think that Lamar's going to figure it out there, but maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, man. But, if they think Jimmy's available and that will work, we'd have to change the whole offense. But
but we wanted to talk a little bit more holistically about the NFC West. And honestly, I wouldn't count out the Cardinals either because they're halfway through the suspension to Hopkins. And that's a different team when Hopkins is back. We finally saw this last week, Kyler Murray connect with Hollywood Brown. Hollywood had a breakout game. Yep. He's talented, but he's reconnecting with a college quarterback, and he just hadn't had a big game yet. But he did last week. And imagine if he can do that kind of stuff. If he can do that kind of stuff, drawing the best corner on the other team. Imagine when DeAndre Hopkins is back. Right. He's drawing the best corner, and he does it regardless. And now Hollywood gets the second best corner. This passing attack is going to flourish when
I've also seen good things from Dortch. Like
but you don't game
the tight end. What's his name? Is it Ertz? Yeah, I mean the tight end.
Yeah, tight end.
Like definitely a threat. I mean, one of the few tight ends I would take in fantasy, right? And Kyler has played well. Like I've watched a lot of Cardinals because I have both Kyler and James Conner on my fantasy team. So I've been watching a lot of Cardinals, and I like the thing that's like kind of wild to me is that the Cardinals are losing and Kyler looks really good. Now they had that comeback against the Raiders, and it was like it was the Arizona Kylers. This dude was doing it on his legs a lot. It was a lot of it was on his legs, but he was passing well too, and he's very accurate. Like he's not just a running quarterback; he is very accurate. He's got a really good arm, and he's extremely accurate. He puts the ball in tight windows. He's been playing really well, and they've still been losing, which is what's kind of strange to me. And even watching him, I don't really understand how these games are going. Their defense just maybe isn't great. One thing I'll call out is AJ Green has been like awful. Like he's dropping passes that are hitting him in the chest. Like I don't know what.
He had the heroic touchdown or 2-point conversion catch.
He had a great 2-point conversion against the Raiders. But dude, he dropped 3 or 4 passes before that. That Kyler. I'm surprised that Kyler threw the ball to him. To be honest with you,
the last few years he's been on the Cardinals, it's been a question of effort, and I can honestly sum up the Cardinals in just a couple sentences. I've always thought they come down to this: bad teams lose games. They just find a way to lose games. And they put that on display last year when they proved that they weren't as good of a team. Well, they came out hot early last year as the best record in football. They lost their first playoff game. They were falling apart all the way through the season after that. Bad teams figure out a way to lose, but good players find out a way to win, which we saw, displayed by Kyler taking over the game by himself.
It's like he can almost win despite the Cardinals.
But what I mean? Which one? Something's got to give. This is like unstoppable force meets immovable object. Is the team so bad that they lose, or is Kyler good enough they win? I think more often than not against really great teams, still they probably tend to lose.
But yeah, I mean, defense matters. The way that he led that comeback against the Raiders is he just literally kept the Raiders offense off the field.
If defense
matters, like the defense couldn't do anything, but it was like, well, they don't have to do anything if they're not on the field. So
it's true. I can't remember if I had them going to the playoffs in our playoff predictions, but if I did, I'm not adjusting that right now. It's too early. Yeah. We got to wait and see, especially until they get their best offensive weapon back. So they're in that wait and see category. And just to wrap up the division, we don't need to talk about them a lot, but the Seahawks, I think it's just, a fluke win to begin the trap game week 1. They won. But I think the question for them, honestly, this year will be, when do you pull the plug and start looking towards the future and find out what you got in Drew Lock, maybe, or, maybe just start tanking outright and try to get a good pick. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it materializing there.
Well, I mean, I think it was no secret they were going to tank, but like,
then they win week 1. Most teams that plan to tank don't win week 1. Like, that's just the reality.
I kind of think that was just a fluky, like, big dick energy win. You know what I mean? Like,
I do too.
So and I don't understand Russ at all. Like, this dude is like, I'm seeing videos of him like practicing doing high fives on the way to the field when there's nobody there. He's like, yeah, okay. Like I don't get, like, I'm like, maybe he's just a crazy person. I don't know. But like the main call out I have in Seattle is I called out Tyreek, Devontae, and DK Metcalf / Russ. What I'm seeing out of DK Metcalf is that he's not actually a good receiver. Like, he is good because Russ made him good, and he's not like actually at the level that we thought. Devontae's sort of in the middle. I think if he got targeted more, I think you give him opportunities, even tough opportunities, and he's going to come down with the ball more. And Tyreek is at that, like, oh, it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball to him, he's good. DK, I think his stock is going to plummet this year.
Well, DK honestly never should ever be included in conversations with those names. I mean, DK slid out of the first round.
He's put similar numbers up to them in the past, but
I think he slid all the way to like the back half of the second. Like, this has always kind of been his thing. And quarterback like Russell Wilson, or quarterback like how Russell Wilson used to play, makes receivers look better than they are. And DK is an amazing athlete, but a top receiver in the league, he is not. And that's
coming back. One more thing I wanted to call out in the NFC West, coming back to Kyler. I know the NBA. I know how this would go in the NBA. I don't know what the standard is in the NFL. If this continued, where it's like, I'm a winner and this team and this culture here are not winners, then it would not be long before you had players demanding trades, and players essentially demanding trades even if they're still in their contract. Is that something that we see commonly in the NFL, or is it like, no, you kind of rat out your contract and then you test the market in free agency, or how's that typically go in the NFL?
More the latter than the former, for sure, and especially in this case where he just extended his contract or signed a new contract, whatever the case may be, and he was requesting a trade before that. So that in the NFL, that's more of a tactic just to get more money from the team you're signing with. So. A lot got made about the new contract he signed, or the extension, whatever it was. And I think he earned the money that he got there, but it was a bad look. The big thing was that they were saying, like, you can't be playing video games all the time. You actually got to study film. You got to do a minimum of 4 hours of film study a week. And most of the NFL quarterbacks were looking at that like, why would you ever need to I need to study 4 hours of film in a week? Like, most of them unprompted.
You only want me to study 4 hours of film?
Yeah. Well, because he's come out in the press and said stuff like, yeah, I don't really like do that kind of thing because I'm just talented. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not really taking the words and twisting them. That's pretty clear about it. He's like, I'm good. Like, look at the film. Watch my film. I'm good.
I'm good.
Like,
I'm a good player. Yeah. Did you see that play that extended 25 seconds and then I scored?
That was nuts.
No, anyway.
Yeah.
So speaking of DK, speaking of Devontae, moving on to the Raiders, I feel I'm eating crow here. I thought I had them picked as a third wild card out of the AFC West, a fourth team to make the playoffs out of the AFC West. I was predicting craziness.
Yeah, I'm going to the Super Bowl.
I did say, I have them winning the Super Bowl. I have them winning the Super Bowl. So John's bracket is busted at this point.
Well, anything's possible. Very unlikely.
I remember I did say this. I still have them in fourth in their division with a wild card because I thought they'll have a rocky start.
Got to overcome adversity. That was the whole idea. Yeah.
They'll need to figure it out. But if they've got that kind of momentum, then they'll make a run.
You're right. Hey, if they make it to the Super Bowl after this start, I probably won't bet against them.
Then they probably will win for sure. Yeah.
True. It's hard to argue with that when that's your argument. You're like, it's a long shot. I'm like, you can't argue with a long shot. That's just,
I mean, I already told you it was a long shot. Yeah, I mean, but no, look, the Raiders suck. They look bad.
I think I'm the only one of the three of us who had them not going to the playoffs in our predictions, and I am cherry picking because I'm probably not bringing up things that I didn't get very right so far. But yeah, I mean, this just we talk about how bad the Broncos look. Hey, they're sitting at 2-1. Like,
yeah,
Broncos
I mean,
are still a good team, regardless.
We didn't talk about how bad the Broncos look because they're sitting at 2-1. I mean,
and most people are very like concerned with how the offense looks, so I don't think it can really get much worse. In the clock management, what the hell is his name? Head coach there, Nathaniel Pickett? That seems wrong. Anyway, he had to hire a
game management coach.
Yeah. Oh, Daddy, can you come look down from the booth and tell me what to do? Because I don't know how to call fourth down plays. Like, it's just embarrassing.
When do I call timeout? Yeah.
But they've been humbled so early, and the season is so long. How could they get worse? And if they're already 2-1 and the offense starts to click, to your Raiders point of like overcoming adversity, I'm like, they've hit plenty of adversity and they still have a good record. They could win this division. Like, and
their loss was really pretty fluky, if we're being honest. There's some of their wins might be fluky too, but
that's very true. Yeah, we'll take the good with the bad.
Okay. I mean, look, Raiders, a loss to the Chargers, I don't mind, right? Especially a close one, 24-9. That makes sense. A loss to the Cardinals, I also don't mind, but letting them come back from what was it, 23-0, 23-7 at the first half, that I kind of mind. A loss to the Titans, that's not good. That's pretty bad. The Titans are not looking good either, and the Raiders lost. And all of these have been close games. So remember what I said about the Dolphins winning close games? The Raiders are doing the opposite. They're like, oh, it's close. We better find a way to lose this. So we're
exactly. Remember what I said about bad teams find a way to lose those games, and that's Exhibit A.
Yeah. So
Exhibit R-A.
The main thing I have to say about the Raiders is I'm going to put Derek Carr in a category with one other quarterback, and that's Jameis Winston. And these are two guys who we think might be good quarterbacks. We're not really sure. At this point, they have no excuse not to succeed, right? So if they can't succeed this year, they've got weapons. They've got what they need. If they can't succeed this year, then they're just going to fall into that, like, looking for a job quarterback situation and bounce around to Carolina and, all like that. They're just going to do that, right? So that's what I think about
a touch differently, because I think they're just popular enough guys. Their play style and their personalities lend them to being like fan favorites, kind of. And then you get fans and the media making excuses for them, and this year still is no exception. I mean, I'm just sick of it. And like Jameis Winston, yeah, he's got four fractures in his back. Okay, well, that's just something about Jameis Winston now. He doesn't get to all of a sudden not have that. Yeah. So is he good or not with the broken back?
Yeah. I mean,
there's no risk to further injury, I guess, and there's just a ton of pain. But like, okay, man, I don't know. The season is here. Like, and if you put up a bad season, like, you don't deserve to start anymore. In my opinion, it's put up or shut up for him, Derek Carr, maybe a few others. And honestly, some quarterbacks across the league, I'm ready to pull the plug on already. I think that's maybe where we're going next, but
it is. And I mean, I can't believe we didn't bring it up, but maybe Jameis will chime in on the Tua injury. Professor Jameis will tell us about anatomy.
Yeah. He'll be like, we'll see what it was. This was his wrist knees.
The wrist knees.
Yeah, it's very common, really.
Speaking of put up or shut up, you're ready to pull the plug on some people. You're saying Carolina, Pittsburgh. Let's bring on.
Yeah,
you're done with Mariota and who even is it? Not Kenny Pickett. Who's the guy who's not Kenny Pickett? Mitch Trubisky. Yeah.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I mean, I don't hate Marcus Mariota. It's not a great situation down there. They're not supposed to win a ton of games, really. But I actually, I mean, for what it's worth, in a silo, I like Desmond Ridder, the rookie backing him up over Kenny Pickett. But I think that the Steelers should call for Pickett even before the Falcons call for Ridder, because there's just so much momentum behind him in that fan base because he was a Pitt quarterback. So I say, and Mitch Trubisky is much worse than Marcus Mariota.
I don't even know his background. He's never had a starting job anywhere.
No, he was the Bears. I mean, the Bears have always been really good. No, he was the Bears. Almost said head coach, starting quarterback after he was drafted. He was drafted super high stock. I think he was number 1 overall.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how bad they were.
Pretty easily. So yeah, I'm calling for Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. I'm calling for Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. I say, hey, you're not going anywhere this season. Get those guys in. Figure out what you got. Maybe they even do something incredible and even just get you close to the playoffs. And your fan base is going to love those guys, and it'll give them a boost going into their sophomore year. I'm not a huge fan of the wait. Give them a year to simmer. Let's get them in the game. You don't just whatever it is. And I'd add one more guy to this list. I'd say Malik down in Tennessee. Tannehill is who he is.
With Tanny, huh?
It's just that without AJ Brown, I don't know why you even care who's a quarterback. Like, who are you throwing the ball to? You got Derrick Henry.
You're running anyway. Like, that's all you're doing in Tennessee. Like,
at least
can your quarterback hand the ball off?
Well, he did fumble one of his few snaps he took in relief at Tannehill after they packed it up in the third quarter. That was against the Bills, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, getting blown out. He got in. He didn't look good. But, that's why he needs reps. Get those guys in the game. You paid up for him. I think he was a second-round quarterback. You pick those guys to play him. And Tannehill could be worth something in a trade still, especially if somebody goes down.
Yeah. You keep playing Tannehill and he keeps being bad, he's going to be worth less and less. So.
Exactly. He's losing value every day. Imagine a team honestly, the Niners would have been a good candidate if Lance went down. If they didn't have a guy like Jimmy,
right.
They could be like, hey, we actually have a chance this season. The Titans might not.
Tannehill could probably game manage well enough for us. Yeah,
I think that's the thing is he could be I don't know what his contract status is, but if he's in the last year of his contract, I think he is, come trade deadline time, that might be a guy who's looking for a new home, or that the team is looking to find a new home for, so they can get something for him. But I'm pretty sure he'd be happy just to go to free agency and find somewhere else. So.
Last but not least, NFC North up for grabs. I mean, NFC North is the division I care about most. I'm a Vikings man. I kind of thought after week one, that wasn't a small, I really thought the Packers were probably better than us. And it was not close. Now, no, I'm sure they'll get better over the course of the season. Something like that won't happen in a late season game. But then the Lions come back and beat. So everybody's 2-1, right? Lions, Packers, Vikings,
Lions are 1-2. Lions are 1-2.
Okay. All right. So, but the one is against the Vikings. So I kind of am thinking here that I think in terms of the arrangement of 1, 2, 3 in the NFC North, it's the most up for grabs. I still would be a little surprised if the Lions won the division, but not that surprised. You know what I mean? I would be less surprised if the Lions won the division than if the Cardinals won the NFC West. If the Cardinals won the NFC West, I'd be very shocked. If the Lions won the NFC North, I'd be I'm kind of shocked. Thoughts?
I'd say it's similar. So there's two divisions in the NFC right now that have the majority of the wins. That'd be the NFC North and the NFC East. The NFC East has the undefeated Eagles, and then 2-2-1 teams. And the NFC North has just 3 2-1 teams. Both divisions have a 1-2 team at the bottom. So this is where I say you can't read too far into the standings this early. You can't just be prepared to say clearly those are the divisions where the wild cards are coming from. Going back to the playoff predictions, been doing it. The Eagles are who I had winning their division in the NFC East, and I have no other team going. So there are 2 2-1 teams. I'm saying I don't care that you have the head start. You're going to lose more games than teams like the Niners or the Cardinals or some of these teams in the NFC North we're talking about. I think the Vikings and the Packers will win the division. I think the Bears are going to definitely fall off. They don't look good to me. The Lions, they got a ton of heart, and I think they will win some games against playoff teams for sure, like they already have. I don't think the Lions can win the division. If there was only one team at the top, like the Vikings or the Packers, sure. But there's a second layer of...
The Lions are 2-1.
The Lions are 1-2.
I have them losing week 1 to the Eagles, beating the Commanders in week 2, beating the Vikings in week 3.
Am I looking at something out of date here? I mean, it'd be weird if it just said that. Either way, I'm going off of how they look. Let's see. They beat...
a loss to the Eagles is not. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the loss.
No, they lost. Sorry. They lost to the Eagles.
No, the Vikings beat the Lions. Sorry, the Vikings beat the Lions. Yes.
Yeah. So the like I said, I think they're one of the.
Vikings, right.
Yeah. They're
Lions
similar.
gave them so the Lions gave them way more of a game than I thought they would. To be honest, like, I don't think of the Lions is very good.
And that's where I would disagree. I think they are a pretty solid team. I think they're a borderline playoff team if they can keep their stuff together. I would say they're one of those teams that's going to beat some playoff teams, but ultimately probably not quite make it. Kind of like who else did I say was like that?
The Commanders, Washington.
The Commanders is, I think off screen I said that. The Commanders aren't a good team per se,
right?
But they can put up a ton of points just randomly in a game and hold a good team off and pull off an upset win. And that's what I said the Lions can do. And I think the Lions, I'll say it like this, even a game behind, I'd say I'm pretty confident they're going to finish in front of the Bears. I think the Bears finish in the cellar in this division.
I mean,
and I think we get two teams out of this division, whether it's the Packers and the Lions or the Packers and the Vikings or the Vikings and the Lions or whatever it is. I think two teams come out of this division because it's just one of the better divisions generally.
And that's pretty common. Yeah, the Vikings Packers coming out of the NFC North is pretty common.
And that's why I'm not backing off on the NFC West either. We're getting two teams out of that division too. You can book it. I'm not even
saying
the
Niners are going to come out. I mean, okay.
But for sure, two teams. If it's not the Niners, it'll be the Cardinals. There's just plenty of wins up for grabs, and they're too good. They're two good teams.
Moving on, week 4 predictions. Let's do it. We already predicted Dolphins, Bengals. Both of us have Dolphins. Do you want to give scores? You just want to give any commentary?
No, let's just go straight up. Do you want to screen share some matchups just so we can?
Let's do it. Yeah. So there we go. Here are our week 4 matchups.
You and I found out we like this better for this particular thing.
I'll zoom in a little bit here.
Nice. Yeah, so starting off, Dolphins, Bengals. Yeah, we covered that, but just to reiterate, we both have the Dolphins there. Bengals off to a slow start, but I do think they'll get it together.
You think they'll pick up? What point do you think they'll pick up? I mean, not against the Dolphins, probably.
I don't think this is their get-right game, unless Tua has to leave the game. Totally different.
Correct, yeah.
So, but they're also too good to keep down. I'm not snubbing them out of the playoffs yet either. I think it's a tough road, but they're a good team. They got to figure out that O-line. It is the reason they're losing.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out.
Vikings, Saints. I am with you. Dolphins, Bengals. Everything you said is what I think as well. Vikings, Saints. Jameis is all over the place, man. He had an incredible fourth quarter, week 1, right? And then he's just throwing interceptions. Jameis doing Jameis, right? So I'm a little bit of a homer here, but I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. I just think their style of play and their weapons are more consistent. Their defense is good enough. If Jameis pops off and the Saints win. And that's like, if Jameis pops off, there's not a whole lot you can do. But if he's not hot, he's not hot. And if he throws interceptions, which he might, then the Vikings offense will capitalize.
Yeah, this is one of those this is kind of a microcosm of the season for the Saints. This is put up or shut up time. And I think they're going to have to shut up. And I think the Vikings are going to do what the Vikings do and pull out this game and show that they are on course to make the playoffs, even if it hasn't been pretty the whole way. They've had some.
A loss to the Eagles isn't horrible. A loss to the Eagles isn't horrible. Just to be clear.
Not just that they lost, but it's the way they lost. And
okay.
That was
just keep Kirk Cousins out of prime time and we're fine.
That is such a. I don't always jump on narratives, but has he ever won? He's like 0-11.
He's like really bad, and it's not like it's like, oh yeah, he just loses. It's like he just plays awful. Like, I don't get it. Anyway,
yeah. Unfortunately for him, playoff games are a pretty big deal. So
are in prime time. Yeah. Seahawks Lions. What do you think here?
Seahawks Lions. You got a different order than me here. Wait, are you in the right week?
Yes, I'm in week 4 of 18.
Okay, my bad. Let's see here. I had Detroit. That's out of order for me, but I had Detroit. Here, I think this is one of those, like, this is going to be the Lions show that you're like, man,
2-2 Lions.
Flukes that they can pull off a win here or there. I think this is the Lions establishing. They're like, hey, we're an average football team for the first time in a while.
We can beat bad football teams for sure.
And I think this is exactly where Seahawks fans, they finally, you drop 3 in a row after a week 1 win that basically nobody saw coming besides the Seahawks fans. And I think this is where you have to realize, like, oh no, we're not good. This is a complete rebuild. Yeah. I still, what I said again. From the beginning, it threw me off week 1, but what I've said from the beginning of the off season really is, once they got rid of Russ.
The Seahawks were never good. Russ was just good.
Well, Pete Carroll's been a good coach, but I think the reason Pete's still there is this is a rebuilding year. It's kind of a tank, even if they don't call it a tank. you blame Pete Carroll for like he's lost it. He's too old. He can't do it anymore. Meanwhile, that was kind of the plan.
Now that USC isn't suspended from bowl games anymore, I could see him just being like, "Fuck it, I'm going back to USC."
Who knows, man? But I think this is why you keep the guy, even though you lost the other guy, Russ Wilson. So you have a scapegoat. You get rid of him. You get a good pick. You hire a new guy. Like this is the playbook that a lot of franchises do now. You get a new coach, new GM, maybe too, with some nice juicy new picks, and you go, hey. Build it how you want it. Let me hear your pitch on how you want to build this team. Right. Who do you like? Let's get the guy you like and let's build this thing up again.
Yep. Jets Steelers. I'm going to take the Steelers here. What do you think? You think we're going to see Mr. Pickett?
I do not think we will see Mr. Pickett.
I think that regardless of whether we see Mr. Pickett, the Steelers will beat the Jets.
So just to be clear, I mean Tomlin's a good head coach. Mike Tomlin is one of the most veteran head coaches in the league at this point. Got to be one of the like top 5 most tenured head coaches, I would think. He's come out and said it's not happening this year. Pickett's on ice. Mm-hmm. Is that coach speak? Who knows? But I mean, he doesn't seem to be one of those guys that tries to play with the media. He seems to be pretty upfront and honest. The problem I have with Pittsburgh is they're just barely good enough to keep winning games with a guy like Mitch Trubisky and without their star defensive player, TJ Watt. So like, I think they're going to pull it out. I'm going Pittsburgh here. They're not playing a great team in the Jets, even though I still have some hope for the Jets over the course of the year. But
I don't. I've given up hope for the Jets.
The Steelers are going to win this one.
Yeah. Jets are just too good at losing.
For the Steelers' sake, I almost want them to drop some of these games against bad teams or what are perceived to be bad teams, because then you could force the issue, get Trubisky out of there, get Pickett in. That's what people want to see. Yep.
Give the people what they want. Bears, Giants, a kind of a seller, kind of a toilet matchup a little bit. I don't know. Giants are 2-1, I guess. But is Daniel Jones good at football? Can he beat the Bears?
The Giants had a hilarious tweet before they played Monday night. They were sitting at 2-0, the third one of 3 teams left to be undefeated at that point. And they said, hey, like from their official Twitter, they're like, we have a chance to be the worst 3-0 team in football history. And they lost.
That is absolutely true. They did have that chance.
They are worse than the worst 3-0 team in football history. They aren't that good. But I do have them winning this game still. The Bears, I am not a believer this year. I like Fields as a quarterback, but he's barely a quarterback. He's more like a running back. The team isn't good. Giants going to squeak it out in a weird
Daniel Jones is going to do some weird things. He's kind of like, he's doing like, he'll have some throws that you're like, that was really good. And then, that is Daniel Jones, though. He just gives you just enough.
I gotta be honest.
Daniel Jones is like golf. Like you do it, you have just enough good shots to keep coming back and playing, but you're not good. You know, like
I am not excited to watch this game. I mean,
no.
that game.
I won't. I'll watch that. I'll look at the box score. I'm going to be honest. Titans, Colts. I got Colts here.
Yeah, let me check my thing. Oh yeah, I do have the Colts as well. I mean that makes sense. I have them picking it up, eventually becoming a playoff team. Still, I think the Titans are not.
Titans
looking
are
great.
a good momentum. Titans are a good momentum team to beat. Right, that's an interdivisional matchup.
I mean, they're just such a different team without AJ Brown. But yeah, exactly. Winning against an okay team, somebody who you're gonna maybe be competing for a playoff spot against. Yeah, the win's gonna mean a lot, and the Colts got to get up.
Good momentum.
The Colts needed a kick in the ass, and they got it, and I think they're gonna pull it out. Are we in lockstep right now? Have we picked the same all the way?
Yes. I mean, I think these picks have been easy though.
Yeah. So far.
Chargers, Texans. I mean, I think this one's obvious too.
Chargers.
Yep. Herbie and crew are going to come back from that Jags loss and.
I feel bad for the Texans. They're going to drop 40 on them.
So. Moving on. Here's a seller matchup. Maybe we'll be different on this.
Davis Mills in Houston looks unfortunate for that guy. He's really got to turn around. Otherwise, he's losing his job. It was kind of a flyer on him anyway for this year. But they've got some picks loaded up from the Deshaun Watson trade too. Like, poor guy is going to lose his job. So unless he does something incredible here. So I hope he can, but the Chargers are going to beat these guys bad.
Here's a seller matchup. What do you think here? Browns, Falcons. Myles Garrett car wreck earlier this week. So
yeah, we didn't cover that, but it seems like he's okay. Seems like, maybe there's some mental stuff.
A one-car wreck.
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit more after we had talked about it a little bit more. And who knows how much this is just the story. It was daylight, so I don't think there was drugs and alcohol involved. That's how it was reported as well. And it seems like from their vantage point, him and the girl who was riding with him, it seemed like they swerved to miss an animal. That's at least the story they're
That's
running with.
usually
So
one car stuff. It's like animals, weather, or impairment. Yeah.
I did see the video. He didn't look impaired or anything. So like, he's had a rough go this week. I think he's trying to suit up. I think he probably will. And I think they win the game.
I mean, I want to go opposite of you, but I also think that the Browns they'll get one of their few wins this week. Moving on.
Next one first, then, because it could go.
Move on. Commanders, Cowboys. I think this all comes down to Carson Wentz. If we see like decent Carson Wentz, I think he'll beat the Cowboys. But I mean, like he could really play awful. If he plays awful, then the Cowboys win, and that's a very real possibility. But
I'll set the other side of the stage here real quick. Dak Prescott still down. Cooper Rush has come in. He's the QB2.
I do like Cooper Rush. I like him. I don't know.
Jerry Jones has come out and said, the owner of the Cowboys has said, he wants a quarterback controversy. He wants Rush to keep playing so good that he makes it a tough decision whether or not to even start Dak, which I think a lot of people are saying, like, you can't talk about your starter like that for one. I mean, but I mean, yeah, what are you going to do when he plays good? I think
there's sometimes this stuff happens. Like we had that with Matt Castle, it's not common. And I think this is where we see the end of the road for Cooper Rush and Carson Wentz and Commanders do Carson Wentz things and have a good game, like, look, Carson Wentz, this comes down to him because Cooper Rush is actually pretty consistent. He's not great, but he's consistent. So he'll do his thing. They'll play okay. And it's up to the Commanders to either beat them or just play awful. And I think I'm just betting that they beat them. What do you think?
You got Washington?
I'll go Washington.
I got Washington. I already made all my picks. Man. Last week, I took some spicy picks just to go against you, but I literally already wrote them down in my phone. So I'm sticking to it. I'm letting you do it. You can pick first on all of them if you want to try to see. If you
Jags, Eagles, I think there's another. I love the Jags Chargers win, but I don't think they can beat the Eagles. I think the Eagles are too much for them. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I'm Philadelphia.
Yeah, I know.
I think they keep it going, but
I like that kid. I like that Jalen kid.
Unlike the other game, I want to see this game. I want to see this be a one-score game.
This will be fun. I hope the Jags play well. Like I hope they have a good showing, but I don't think they can win.
As long as it's a one-score game that's not super low scoring, as long as it's not like 14-10, as long as it's like there's multiple touchdowns scored on both sides of the ball, I might move the Jaguars up into like making the playoffs in my head. Could be.
Yeah. Bills, Ravens. I feel bad for the Ravens here. I think the Bills are going to just come out firing. Well, personally, I mean, the Ravens are a good defense. That's the nice thing about the Ravens is that it's like you got a great offense in the Bills, but the Ravens are a defensive culture. So, I mean, I think that they'll do okay, but I don't think they can stop the Bills machine.
Yeah, we're kind of tough on the Ravens as a pod.
We're not really hot on the Ravens, man.
We triple snubbed him. I mean, Lamar has kind of proved us wrong with his individual performance, but it's kind of like Kyler. I think this is one where he can't will them to victory over a team this good. But we could be wrong, but yeah, I got the Bills here.
The Bills are good, so good offensively. I mean, they pass a lot, they score quick, but if they need to, if they need to, the Bills need to, they can keep Lamar off the field. They can really minimize his time and so I have the Bills here. Moving on, Cardinals, Panthers. I think this is Cardinals get back on track here and have a solid win, not some weird, crazy come from behind thing. I think this is where they get on track. They get a solid win in and get themselves to 2-2. What do you think?
Yeah, I got Arizona here. This is a weird week because so far I think there's only been two where I'm like, maybe you could disagree on this.
Maybe, yeah.
It feels pretty, but I mean, there's bound to be upsets for sure. But just like as you're picking, I mean, how do you not go with Arizona there?
Yep. Moving on, Broncos, Raiders. Does Russ keep his weirdness going and get to 3-1, and the Raiders go to 0-4?
I mean, I got Denver.
Oh, hold on. All right. Yeah, I'll pick. Yeah, I do think because I actually was hot on Russ before, right? Like I said he would lead the league in passing. So I think he'll get better and better every week. Like you said, I think they'll only get better with the game management coach, a position I've never heard of before on the coaching staff. But yeah, I think the Broncos will actually start like playing pretty well. The Raiders can do really good stuff offensively. Like we've seen them do great stuff offensively, but yeah, I think the Broncos are going to get better and better. And I think the Raiders are just kind of in a downslide.
Yeah, I don't think I'd use the word great, but yeah. I think we got one more kind of fairly easy one here, and hopefully we got something different these last ones.
Yeah. Pat's Packers.
Aaron Rodgers next.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers next.
I mean, come on.
Chiefs Bucks. You betting against the GOAT here? Because I am.
Ooh, I don't even know which way you mean, honestly.
Oh, no, sorry. Are you betting against the established GOAT here?
Yeah, I am. I'm going
man.
Chiefs.
Fine, I won't. Don't bet against Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I do. I think I like Pat Mahomes. I think he's really good. I mean, I think he's just good no matter who his weapons are. But Tom Brady is too. So, yeah. I'll go with Bucks. If you go in the Chiefs, I'll go Bucks.
This is not an indictment on Tom Brady. It is more speaking to the revolving door they have in the receiver room in Tampa Bay right now. It's a little rough. I own a lot of those fantasy assets, and it's been not fun.
So here's what's going to happen. On Saturday, we're going to hear an announcement from Rob Gronkowski's Twitter that he's returning to the NFL, playing on Sunday. Look, the Chiefs are actually looking really good. I think Brady will get it together. I think he's always been good. He's always been good no matter who his targets are. And maybe his targets are bad right now, but even still, he still figures out like a way to use bad targets fairly effectively. So I think I think Brady will get it.
Brady's not the problem, and I see this similar to like the Denver conversation. We don't have to call it a problem. They're 2-1. They're leading their division. They're fine. They're patchworking together. They're receiving, and they signed Cole Beasley, and then he played like 3 days later for them. It's just some like well-known slot receiver. Tom Brady needs a slot guy. They've got Kyle Rudolph, an aging tight end who's not Gronk, but like, okay, somebody to throw the ball to. So
but that's what I mean. I think the reason things have looked rough is because he's trying to figure out like kind of bad targets. But I think that's what he does every week. He's going to get better at like using his targets, even if they're not good.
Right, but they haven't played a team like the Chiefs yet.
That's true. I mean, the Chiefs are good. In reality, I actually do think the Chiefs will win. But
I mean,
I'm not going to bet against the. If you're going to take the Chiefs,
you could take the Chiefs because you know who I'm taking in the Monday night game. If you really just want to have a game
in the Monday night game, I will go against you here. I'm not a Niners home. I like the Niners more than the Rams, and I actually hate that I'm siding with Q here, even though he's not here. I know what he thinks, but I do think this Jimmy G, I think that Jimmy G needs more time to adjust to this offense if they're going to not change the offense back for him. And so I think the Rams are going to take it.
Yeah. This is going to be, I don't even need to look back on who the Rams have played so far this year. This is going to be the best defense they've played. I would say that no matter who they've played.
Can they get in field goal range 3 times? Because if they can, then the Niners are in trouble.
Hey, they scored 10 points last game. They would win if you only got 3 field goals.
It's all right. So. Jimmy will run out of the back of the end zone.
One more safety. Yeah, sure. No, I got the Niners here. Sure, some homerdom. I'm probably not going to pick against the Niners very often throughout the whole season at all. But going back to, first of all, they are the favorite in this game. Pretty surprising, I think, to a lot of people, but they are the Vegas favorite in this game.
I will say that the LA has
they beat the Rams 2 times out of 3 matchups last year.
There are plenty of teams I would pick over the Rams. I don't think that LA looks all that great, honestly.
I think they look fine. They look how I expected, but the Niners don't look
exactly right. They look fine. They don't look like the Super Bowl champion Rams, but I do think the Niners are just still making adjustments.
I think what's fun to play the what if game for a second and imagine the Niners do pull it out, because it's not fun to think the other way right now because the Rams just extend their lead in the division. Yeah. If the Niners win, they're both sitting at 2-2. The division doesn't look good because there's 2 teams tied at 500 with the division lead, but one of them will have the win over the other. How would you not say then the Niners are most primed to go to the playoffs, especially with Jimmy G getting a few more games under his belt? Feels like this is it's not a must-win game, but if you do win this, it's a
big momentum win, right? So I'd say I would compare it in basketball to taking a tough shot. It's like if I hit that shot, that's a dagger.
It's not a dagger.
It's a good shot. It's not a great shot selection, right? I probably won't make. It's not high percentage, but if I hit it, it's a momentum shot. And
this wouldn't be a knock out of the Rams, but it'd be a knockdown of the Rams.
Yeah,
they're going to come up woozy, and the Niners are going to be feeling tough.
Yeah, it would be a big blow. Anyway, that's all we have for this week. Went a little bit long, but it was a good time. Good time talking NFL, even with just me and Casey. Also, we kept it shorter than you and Q did. You guys talking for like an hour and 40 minutes. Come on. Thanks for watching Triple Cost. Call us. Don't call us. I don't want that. Follow us. Follow us on Twitter. Remember, Casey, you say the YouTube things now.
Yeah, hit the like button, smash it. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button so you're subscribed to our channel. Hit the bell icon to get notifications so you don't miss any of this hot content we drop onto the Triple Cross Podcast channel. And go Niners.
What do we want to ask the people? Comment and tell us.
Tell us your favorite team. I don't know. Tell us.
Okay.
We were in lockstep on too many. Which ones did we both get wrong together? I like that we added in some controversy on Sunday night, Monday night games, but we had everything together for the first block of Sunday, second block of Sunday, and the Thursday game. Plenty of people are bound to disagree with that. Tell us which ones we got wrong.
Which picks did we get wrong as a podcast? Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us which teams we're not covering enough.
Yeah. Who do you like? Who do you want to hear more about? Thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time on Triple Cross.
Peace.